I think it is a great honor and privilege for me to share my views with such a distinguished guests coming from all around the world to discuss the world global entrepreneurship. We are here in Istanbul. To me, I think one of the best, well-known, and to be a center of global entrepreneurship, inspiring, motivating, and you can enjoy in Istanbul, you can work, you can be motivated, and you can be among the people working, enjoying, and earning. I thank you, the organizer, Mr. Sabanci and his team, and the organizers of the NGOs, and of course, the Department of Governments and other institutions, they all together to make this happen. In short, as you know, Turkey is a rising economic powerhouse and a strong emerging player in a global environment. And Turkey has created a competitive and friendly business environment, which you can come, establish your business, and run through your success. And we are going through an exciting times in terms of new investment in Turkey. What an environment we are observing in Turkey. Investment to GDP ratio of Turkey is ranked as the third, comes just after China and India, and which is up to 29% of GDP every year is invested in Turkey. And Turkey is ranked 37 among 137 countries in terms of entrepreneurship rank. And the share of innovative enterprises in total initiative rose to 61.5%. We have introduced many incentives for investors to come and invest, get together, and cooperate and win together. We are strengthening our entrepreneurship ecosystem, and we are revising the structure of development bank to support companies in the future and setting up the innovative techno venture capital. Just before the meeting, Mr. Sabanci said to me, I don't know you are aware of it, and tell me 75% to 100% tax exemption for angel investors provided in Turkey. And according to angel investment, Turkey ranks 5th in Europe, as you may be aware of it. We have seen that building a successful ecosystem takes around 2 decades, and sustainable ecosystem emerge with a constant stream of success stories. Contrary to common belief, Silicon Valley was built over a decade of strategic investment by US government as part of the vision for innovation-driven economy touted by the Cold War and space race. An entrepreneurial venture passes through several stages of its life, from a startup with a handful of employees to hopefully significant technology success story. Now I want to explain Turkish entrepreneurship ecosystem in 5 components: culture, talent, market, funding, and policy. The Turkish ecosystem has been developing steadily over the years. Turkey's strength remains through a strong entrepreneurship culture, competitive technical talent, sizable local consumer market, and comparatively strong supporting industries such as banking and logistics. 14 major technology exits occurred in Turkey in the 2011 and 2016 period, with a total transaction size $1.2 billion US. The Turkish appetite for funding venture has been increasing amid the elevated status of entrepreneurship in the world, as well as local success stories. Turkey ranks favorably among similar countries regarding the entrepreneurial aspirations of population. According to Startup Journal Ecosystem Report 2017, every 30% of 18 to 65 years old population want to launch business, whereas while this percentage in Singapore is 9% and Germany is 7%. Turkey gave birth to many startups in the global arena that either raised multiple rounds, reached to revenues beyond $10 million, and promoting startups would help shift the focus to the global stage. And Turkey has already given champions such as Peak Games, Tailwalls Entertainment, and Zeppelin. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkish companies or companies funded by Turkish founders globally raised over $700 million in 2011 and 2016. There are hundreds of highly skilled Turks working for multinational companies such as Apple, Facebook, and Google. The facts show that Turkey has technical talent who are globally competitive and could deliver global products and services. Turkish people are innovative, flexible, encouraged, and we have the technical talent to build the products that we dream. Yet, the lack of commercialization, limited company building, and global expansion skills are creating a bottleneck and limiting startup development. We should focus on fostering commercialization skills and globally connecting founders with people who have done it in the past. And startups with global potential should be handpicked and offered training. A large local market is desirable, but most local markets are not large enough, and this is why market reach is key to sustainable ecosystem. At this stage, the ecosystem has to offer either market depth that will take the company above $10 million in revenues or sufficient market reach. As you may know or may realize it, Turkish consumers adapt themselves technology-wise very rapidly. Turkey has the 6th largest Facebook and 4th largest Instagram user base in the world, as well as the 4th largest mobile phone market in Europe. Over time, Turkey has become the test bed of some international consumer internet companies. Turkey also produced consumer-facing startups such as Scope and Connected to Me. On the B2B side, we have globally competitive industries like tourism, banking, telecom, and retail. These industries could help us breed globally competitive B2B startups. And Patron is a great example, as it started serving banking customers in Turkey and became a regional player who then got acquired by its global counterpart. Ladies and gentlemen, Turkey has relatively strong and angel investment activities, incubation accelerator, and Turkish government typically support inception stage. However, venture capital is limited in our country, and Turkey has one of the lowest accumulated venture capital investment per GDP among OECD countries. I think all investors should create such venture capital fund and to just capture or catch up some sort of innovative companies to get together and to cooperate and to take share of it and then win all together. And Turkey extended R&D program to support tech ecosystem. Any product comes out from R&D activity is highly being supported under technological product investment support program, commercialized and put it in the market. This is mostly non-refundable support for micro-scale enterprises and SMEs. And investors for business angels to corporations buying assets expect a level of business certainty. Again, we discussed and we share this fact that minority shareholders should be provided with monitoring, auditing, and other corporate governance rights so that they can protect their investments. As startups mature, they start face business realities. A complicated tax system may scare new business away, and the number of hours spent on tax filing and overall tax burden are essential metrics that we as policymakers should focus on improving. Of course, we have done our job as well. The new commercial code has reformed many of the archaic business practices in Turkey. Doing Business Index 2017 report, Turkey is strong in minority shareholder rights and contract enforcement. And Doing Business Index again indicate that countries that manage to decrease tax complexity usually implemented online tax filing and submission system. And Turkey has taken necessary steps to revolutionize the taxation system with e-invoice, e-letter, and e-archive. On the other hand, to improve the investment climate, we had passed 2 laws in our Grand National Assembly just days before. Ladies and gentlemen, to conclude, we are in a living, breathing ecosystem. Actors are independent. Actions of each other impact others in a complex manner, building a healthy ecosystem that will benefit everyone. The creation and development of entrepreneurship ecosystem is an important requirement that increases both the quantity and quality of investment. As politicians, the public and private sectors, with the lessons that we have learned from the global success story and taking into account Turkey's own dynamics, the strengths and weaknesses, we have been trying to create our entrepreneurial ecosystem, which is strong, viable, dynamic, sustainable, competitive, and has an international access to enjoy. Then lastly, I'd like to seize this opportunity again to thank once again the organizer and the people that make this Congress happen, and I thank you all for coming from all around the world to share your views and to make this atmosphere very fruitful and enjoyable. Thank you.
And now for our fireside chat, the women's ecosystem, footprint on the ecosystem. I'd like to invite to the stage Ms. Elizabeth Gore, the chair of ALICE, Ms. Zainab Salbi, the founder of Women for Women International, and Ms. Ebru Ozdemir, the chairwoman of Limak Holding. Thank you.
Zainab will join us in a minute, but we got to meet last night, and I was totally blown away by you and your company. So we're going to have a conversation together today, but first, if you don't mind introducing yourself and your extraordinary background for us.
Okay, definitely. My name is Ebru Ozdemir. I am the second generation in a family company in Turkey, and I'm a civil engineer as well. We have investments in construction, infrastructure, ports, airports, energy, and cement production, and as well as hotels. So I am working as, the director in most of these businesses. So this is in a nutshell, and I'm also the chair of the Limak Foundation that we have established a couple of years ago.
So I think your business card reads CEO of everything. Is that right?
Yes, try to. I'm like the, not CEO of everything, but I'm just trying to get the obstacles in front of the business, what I do.
Well, my name is Elizabeth Gore, and I'm the president and chairwoman of ALICE. We're a global software company that helps all entrepreneurs scale. We're a social enterprise and free for founders, and we love specifically, while we're open for all founders, supporting women entrepreneurs and women in business. So let me ask you about, tell me the landscape of women in business in Turkey. I know that's a mass generalization, but I would love to hear it from your perspective.
Oh, okay. So first of all, we have very powerful women in business in Turkey, and we have we have even had the prime ministers and the head of the business organizations and so forth. But apparently, what is missing is we don't have a lot of women in decision-making positions. Mm-hmm. So currently, and also in the STEM education that I'm coming from, so I'm trying to always look from that perspective. Mm-hmm. Being an engineer, we were only 5 out of 50. It's always 10%. We're always the minorities. And being in all these construction-related or infrastructure-related businesses, we have very few women. So the idea
really quickly, why did you go into STEM?
Why did I?
Yeah.
Because all our family are engineers.
So okay. So you didn't have a choice.
Yeah, I always wanted to be an engineer too. Yeah. I think, we are raised in that way. But
you weren't like, I'm going to be a singer and a dancer. Yeah. And no, you're an engineer. Yeah. It was engineering all the way.
Yes, I grew up like that. That's wonderful. Even in our, even in our holiday trips, we had to stop in one site, have lunch, go around the site. Uh-huh. So I think my father is great in putting it into our genes, I say. We are like prototypes. Mm-hmm. But he influenced everyone. All my uncles are engineers. You know, my mother, my father was classmates, mechanical engineers.
Your mother is also an engineer.
Yes,
My
yes.
Lord.
He doesn't have a choice. You know?
Wow.
But we're happy. I mean, if you meet my
amazing.
father on the flight and ask, you know, what should my son be? He's like, okay, he should be an engineer first, and then he can be a dancer.
Ah,
you know, like,
got it.
This
Got
is
it.
the education.
Got it.
It's crazy with. But this is the reason, I mean, sitting in one of the top positions in the company, I said, you know, we have to change this disparity. I mean, we have to have more women at work. So because there were few, except hotels in tourism, where we have close to 50% of women working in the hospitality industry. That's for sure. But in cement, I mean, production or ports, airports, very few. So we said, okay, we have to increase the number of women. We started a program called Turkish Women Engineers Program.
Oh, wow.
That we support women in engineering degrees. But then we said, okay, this is not enough because these are already chose to become engineers. So we are now going to high schools because in Turkey, the parents, they want their daughters to be either teachers or doctors. They're both valuable. But teachers, because it's an easier life, you know, they can get married easily. Or doctors because they want them to be looked after when they're older. So so we said nobody wants to be an engineer like me unless they're coming from the family. So this is the reason. I mean, I'm very much interested in the women and empowerment.
So I'd love to bust a bit of a stereotype. I think when people think globally, construction, cement, building, they think outside with a hard hat on. Does that make sense? So what you're talking about is math. You're talking about all the STEM fields. You're talking
Yes.
about being in a boardroom. So tell us, the perception versus reality of women that are thinking of entering in this space.
The perception versus reality.
Yeah.
So in the STEM or in the engineering or in the business? that we are doing?
Let's talk about the business side.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the business side, yes, there is a big perception gap of what women can do and what they're perceived to do. So like we own a port in the very east of Turkey, and it's the first time we had an industrial engineer who wanted to work there. So the initial reaction was, what can a woman can do at a port? It's very heavy, all these big cranes, this and that. But I made them, look, try this. If you don't like, if it doesn't fit, there's always another opportunity. She started industrial engineer in the cranes and so forth. And apparently, a year after, I just saw them, they start recruiting more women. They said, wow, this was great. She's doing so many things. She's adding so much value.
Yeah.
So what we are trying to do is we are trying to bring these glass ceilings down. And we try to do this with changing the mentality of the families, mentality of the peers, and also afterwards the mentality of the students, because they also think, they don't think that, because as everyone thinks that this is not appropriate, you start to think that it's not appropriate anymore. So in our program, we put a mentor, a successful mentor in the same field. If she's an engineering student or computer engineering student, we put a computer engineer who is successful in the business, who is really working on the field, and try to bring her to a place that she really trusts herself. Because it's not enough to graduate. So these issues also start at the workplace. So because we want them to go up the ladder to the decision-making positions, like project manager, board member, CEO. So in that field, these women should be able to go up without, caring about these obstacles in the family or in the work field.
What is just to bring some humor into it, what's the funniest misconception you've ever heard?
The funniest misconception.
Yeah.
I have to think about it.
Like something that you sit back and you're like, I can't believe I just heard that. Being a woman in your field.
Every day I'm hearing something.
Every day you hear?
And I keep on forgetting, or I'm not taking them serious, so I start to forget everything. But there's so many. What could a woman do in the port? We're not ready to do that, or even at the site, in construction sites. We have now a lot of women. We are building the third highest dam in the very east of Turkey. And there was one woman engineer, just graduated. She wanted to go there. And everyone's like, is she really serious? Is she really want to go there? And now she's there, sending me photos, posts, and she's extremely happy. But to bring them to the work site and to be accepted by the site is always a challenge. Well, I have to remember some humor, yeah.
Well, I think the fact that you have one every day is humor enough.
Yes,
So,
yes, there's always. I mean, yeah.
So I'm actually blown away that your mother is an engineer.
Yes,
You're an engineer. None of my family are even educated. I was the first family to go to college, person in my family. And it's so impressive in Turkey, after being here a week, seeing the level of education in STEM and women entering into technical fields. In the United States, you might know it's actually going down.
Yes.
So I think, one, we have a lot to learn.
Yes.
So thank you for teaching us this week. But two, what are you most, I'd like to hear what you're most worried about, but also what you're most optimistic about when it comes to women entering the workplace.
Okay, what I'm worried about is, we put a lot of effort on these women, like girls, the students right now. And, we are like choosing them, we're monitoring them. Every month they are meeting with a mentor. Their English is a big problem in Turkey. This is, I think, we may not be as good as US. So we put them into the online program, and then we really, care about them, and they really feel like they're in a family. And then we put them into an internship programs in the summers. And as I'm an engineer, I know what an engineer misses. So we put a program together called Innovative Engineering Program.
Okay.
And we put them in classes in the 3rd and the 4th year. And we want them to learn innovation, entrepreneurship, social media, communication skills. This is what we miss. And then after they graduate, my biggest fear is that they will not work. I mean, I have that kind of a fear, either they'll get married or, they'll do this, that, or they'll choose someone. This was one of the ideas that came up in our advisory board meeting that we had today. And they were saying, like, to choose the husband is also an important thing for a successful woman.
That's very true.
It's like they were talking about all these successful women, and they said they're all married, but they're married to really cool husbands.
Supportive husbands. Yeah.
Supportive, exactly. So my biggest fear is that. I mean, I'm thinking about these girls every day, trying to...
Does it keep you up at night?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I'm like, I'm sending some WhatsApp messages to our group.
So I'm so curious, what was the answer today when that came up? I mean, is there a solution there? I mean, because we all can have pretty bad dates and good dates. Maybe you could choose for us.
This was the idea. Should we interfere with their husband selections? I don't know.
Yes.
At one point. This was one of the ideas. And the other thing is the impact. I mean, coming from, again, engineering, we always work with these KPIs, the goals, numbers, figures. So now we are going to high schools, right? And we are trying to make them engineers. So how we are going to measure our impact? We are putting so much funds, so much energy, so much concentration and mind in this program, but we have to be able to measure it. Are we successful enough? I mean, we are creating these girls in all, like 360 degrees, and we are putting into the work field, but what impact do we create? This is something else that keeps me up at night. I mean, I really want to measure it, because it's been 3 years, and we are going to 4th, 5th years. So the measure is I'm looking after.
So I'm worried about your sleeping now. So what is it that
I can't sleep
you're optimistic about, that actually you put your head on the pillow and think, this gives me confidence for the future?
Yes, this is when they get in this program especially, when I see successful girls going, choosing or accepted at good jobs or good careers, and who are going up, and then coming back to help. Because this year we bring them together in Istanbul, and I asked them, what is your biggest dream? And most of them were like, okay, would like to get a good career, not even in Turkey, international career. Okay. And would like to come back and be a mentor to the newcomers. So this was something that I really felt like very comfortable. I'm like, okay, I can sleep better.
This is good. So I want to switch a little bit to your advice and thoughts generally. We have an extraordinary group of entrepreneurs here at GEN, men and women, who are listening. And I'm just curious about, you're running such a huge, multifaceted company, but you're also taking the time to ensure that the people around you are coming with you. So you're chairing the foundation. Why do you choose to, in addition to your work, also put time and effort into a social cause like this? And how do you even think about how you break your time apart? Because I think time management is so hard for especially young entrepreneurs that are here just trying to get profitable and get their head going. But we're also asking them to give back. How do you prioritize that, and why do you prioritize that?
Because I'm a big believer in giving back what we earn to the public itself. And this is actually, you know, in US, I've seen this. I mean, you know, people start to donate blood, like even when they're like kids or teenagers, and they start to donate it, and they start to do donations. They try to be good to the public. They try to give it back. And for example, one of the conditions of the scholarship that we are giving is to do a social, to work in a social organization. And they have to document it. Every month, 4 hours, they can do whatever they want, but they have to do something for the public. Because I think that after seeing the US system, I saw that this is what you can learn. I mean, giving back is something that you can learn and something that you should do. The people who doesn't know how to give back is actually not doing nothing good for themselves as well. I mean, so it's basically like if you're giving back what you have earned to the public, you can give back more. So this is a very important aspect of our family as well.
Does it help you in business, giving back?
Yeah, I mean, yes, exactly. And actually, we were always giving back, but what I did is we put a charity together or a foundation together to do it in a more structured way. And we are not only giving back in Turkey, but we are giving back wherever we do business.
Okay.
So we started the Kuwaiti Women Engineers Program in Kuwait.
Wow.
Yes.
Why Kuwait?
Because we are building a very big airport there.
Okay.
And we need engineers to build this airport, and afterwards, people to run it.
Wow.
But of course, being a woman, I mean, I give priority to the women engineers.
Yes.
And we have 2 institutes in Kosovo where we operate the airport and where we distribute electricity because the young unemployment rate in Kosovo is 50%.
Wow.
So the other student, I mean, young is unemployed. So we just try to give them some new education so that they can be employed as well. So giving back is a very, cultural element of our company.
So when you wake up in the morning, how do you decide where to spend your time?
Where or on what?
On what? So if
I'm everywhere.
you only have 24 hours in a day, you might have 28. You seem superhuman. And you decide I'm going to spend 10 hours on my business, 1 hour on my foundation. I might have time to take a shower, so on and so forth. We did. We actually, neither of us shower much anymore, so I'm sorry to everybody, because we're busy.
Yes, I remember that.
So
this was one of the topics, yes.
So how do you decide as a great leader where and how to spend your time?
Yes, so
I think people could really learn from that, because obviously you're quite successful with it.
And plus I have to spend some time with my family as
there's
well.
That part
yeah,
too.
There's that part as well. So I mean, probably it's getting more and more with the Limak Foundation. But of course I have to spend a lot of time on the business. But what's dear to me is the foundation and how it's really moving up and the projects that we are doing. The other project that we are really starting is in Senegal, that we are building an airport institute there as we build the airport and running it there.
Wow.
And the young employment is again an issue. And we really want the young people to run the airport themselves. I mean, I cannot take Turkish people to run the airport in Senegal.
Right.
So I'm more involved when we are establishing the program. Then I give it, we have a big and very talented team that they really work on the projects as well. But I'm more on a business developer person. I mean, I try to develop business, create the team, and change it. Probably now I'm 70% involved in business, 30% in the foundation. However, I deal with the foundation every day.
Okay.
It's not like, I find the time either at night, during the day, but this is dear to me.
When you go into, when you're going in to do business, Kuwait, Senegal, we actually, with a GIST competition today, had extraordinary entrepreneurs from all over the world. One was from Senegal, actually. And they want to go global the day they start. which
Yes.
is exciting. But how do you establish, being from Turkey and walking into someone else's country, how do you establish relationships there and trust? I'm just curious, because you all seem to have been very good to not only establish a business, but a foundation and employing folks that are from those areas. Do you have advice for founders who are going into other countries to do business?
Exactly, because I mean we are active in maybe more than 20 countries, and we really do work with local people. So, and what I realize is every country has other philosophy and other mentality. So to bring your own mentality to these countries may be misleading. Now we are doing, as I said, the Kuwait Women Engineers program in Kuwait. In Turkey, the problem is funds. Most of the funds and the mentality. I mean, okay, women cannot be engineers, and because of they don't have maybe enough money, and being a teacher is easier. They cannot travel to the other cities. They cannot work there and so forth, or stay there. But in Kuwait, it's totally different. I mean, they're all rich. They don't need employment, or whoever graduates, they're employed by the government. So there's no urge to build an airport by themselves. I mean, a company comes from Turkey, builds it anyway. A consultant from some other country does it anyway. So we are now trying to change the mentality. And we hosted these girls in Turkey, and we realized that they all want to change the system in Kuwait, for example. And I'm like, oh my God, this could be dangerous.
So you brought the girls from Kuwait to Turkey.
Yes.
Oh, that's
and
amazing.
3 days, because we're building the world's biggest airport right now in Istanbul.
Wow.
And we send them to the site. They saw how big it is and how it's impossible to achieve it. So in Kuwait, I mean, we really have, or in Senegal, I mean, it's a totally different mentality. So we try to adapt, and we really are sensitive of what their sensitivities are, and bring a model together. I mean, like today we were together with a very important entrepreneur, and he's helping Senegal to build some water wells from Turkey. And he does it with a Turkish company. And this is so important because they don't even have water in some areas.
Right.
So the priorities in
It's
every
hard to
country...
think about being an engineer when you have no water.
Yes.
Right.
Priorities in every country changes. So we are trying to be sensible or sensitive to that. And my advice is, I mean, it's good to bring your know-how, but be careful with the sensitivities in the country and priorities.
So I want to repeat that because I thought that was such good advice. So be aware of the sensitivities.
Yes.
And I'll also say culture.
Cultural differences and the priorities.
And that
as
seems
well.
like it might take time.
Yes, yes.
And in business, we're always in a hurry, but I can imagine sometimes it takes a little time.
Yes, it takes a little bit of time, and you really have to listen to these guys. Sometimes we are very quick as well. You want to work on your business plan, create your EBITDAs, make everything very successful and very fast. And I was in Senegal, and they stopped me. They said, the way that we do business is a little bit different here. Let's take our time, let's discuss longer board meetings.
Yes, a lot of food,
Great
music.
Yes, great music. And so then we start to, we take a step backwards and we try to adapt it. So it was, it's nice.
Well, I'm going to ask you and close in a second so you can think of it, your absolute best piece of advice for all the founders and entrepreneurs that are here. But first, how do people find out about the foundation and maybe support it, promote it? Just first of all, repeat the name so everyone can hear it.
Limak, Limak.
Limak.
Yeah, it's our company's name, foundation. Yes.
Wonderful. Because I think it's something that could be replicated in many countries, particularly actually in the United States, which is really interesting. So maybe you'll join me.
Yes.
And we could help. So in close, and then I have a quick fun announcement. Could you just give us, I like to ask people their
Your
best.
questions are very difficult.
You're doing great. You're doing great. Your best advice for entrepreneurs as they become leaders like you. Just one piece of advice that's simple, but maybe it's something that you live by.
Okay, I always think like the business or the life is like a marathon, But what matters is the last 100 meters. I mean, I find it, the ones that lose are generally the ones that leave the table the first.
Wow.
So this, endurance and resilience I find is very important. Of course, there are other things that are important, but I find it resilience and endurance are the most important. And the ones who stay up the last 100 meters and faster in the last 100 meters is the ones that wins.
That is wonderful advice, the last 100 meters.
Yes. It's the most thing, yeah.
And speaking of, because this is a global community, today we are announcing on behalf of founders, particularly diverse founders like women, ethnic minorities, people with disabilities who are incredibly talented, a new pitch competition that we wanted to announce here in Turkey because we've been so impressed with the level of entrepreneurship. It's called Pitch with Purpose. Pitch with Purpose. So it's a global digital competition that any entrepreneur can enter as long as their business has some kind of social output. Okay. So just like you're saying, we love if it's profitable, but how are you helping the world? How are you supporting the UN Sustainable Development Goals? Yes. There's a cash prize of $15,000. You get to come to the next Gen meeting in Bahrain, which we're really excited about. You'll get mentorship from Alice, Amazon web credits. There's just so much there. Okay. So the Pitch with Purpose, anyone could apply at helloalice.com. Okay. Helloalice.com. The only thing we ask is there is diversity in your company. So hopefully we'll see a diverse company. But let me just say thank you to all your extraordinary advice. If we could give her an amazing round of applause.
Thank you.
For all your work.
She deserves the applause.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, dear ladies. We have a nice surprise commentary sent to us from New York City. We have a video from Dr. Mehmet Öz.
I'm Dr. Mehmet Oz, and I'm honored to address the Global Entrepreneurship Conference. Proud that 170 countries are represented. And this is the 10th anniversary. And for Istanbul to be able to host this entrepreneurship hub means a lot to everybody. Historically, Istanbul was the crossroads of the world. You know, perhaps by its many other names, Constantinople, Byzantium. But the interesting thing about Istanbul is that it really, at its very core, meant Oxford, right? Because the Bosphorus is a very narrow little stream prior to the flooding from Gibraltar. And so as you begin to appreciate how Istanbul inherited the Roman Empire, because the Roman Empire did end when it collapsed, it all just moved east to Istanbul. And the Ottomans in 1453, when Fatih Sultan Mehmet, my namesake, conquered Istanbul, the Ottomans preserved and valued diversity. And they created a meritocracy, which is what allowed the empire to thrive for so long. In fact, even where you are now, if you look at the Galata Tower, that tower in the Galata section of Istanbul, that is just north of the Golden Horn, that whole area was built because entrepreneurs could flourish. In fact, it was the vital lifeblood of capitalism, and it remains as such. And like evolution, there are some rewards and there's some penalties when you change. And there's some chances you take when you experiment on both a small and a big scale. But that's okay, because you need big disruptive efforts. That's why you're all there today, because many of you are going to come up with concepts that are so grand that a decade from now we'll look back and say, oh my goodness, it was so evident. But no one sitting in the room right now knows who's going to be that big change maker. I'm sure there are many. Jeff Bezos reminds us that the top companies today will be different in 10 years. Which is also a reality. There's going to be a downward slope for some. So which is the healthy one and which is not? That's your challenge. But remember, no matter what happens, forest fires are valuable. They clear out brush and they leave room for new to grow. So the opportunity for you to be where change happens and to react appropriately is where the big opportunities will exist. Now, my career focused in two major areas. Right? And these two areas happen to be poised for large entrepreneurial opportunities. Many of you in the audience may be focused on them as well. And think about the small human villages of 1,000 years ago, 10,000 years ago. Iconically, there had to be at least two things talked about. Health around the campfire and entertainment around the campfire, right? That just happened. And healthcare and media, the modern day incarnations, are becoming progressively more important because it's in our lifeblood to desire these things. People are seeking to live longer, and they actually are living longer. And because of that, they see quality of that life, which means they've got to do things to do, and that becomes the entertainment. Now, despite the news cycle that so many of us are concerned about, the world is safer now than ever before. That's just the numbers. We don't like to talk about that in the news that much because it makes it seem like it's tedious. But the fact is, aside for some big problems the modern world faces, the average person's life is a safer one, both because of medical advances, but because wholesale genocide is not as tolerated. And that allows us to focus on the good life. And the good life is not just about good cars and lots of money. It's about the things that really matter to you. It's family, fun, faith, food, things that really make your life better. And with more disposable time and technological ease of inexpensive communication, there's an explosion of content and more interest in global sharing of media. Because media, stories on that campfire I was just talking about used to bring us together, right? People learned and lived through stories. That's why the oral tradition, so many of the spiritual and religious writings are all based on taking thoughts that were once talked about and then putting them on paper. And that gave rise to the art that we are so enamored with. It's in our psyche to care about these things. Now, health and media remain balkanized. That's an opportunity, right? Money's not like that, right? Other things have changed, but health and media remain balkanized. Normally, they should bring us together, as stories always have. Entrepreneurs are in the business of change. We all are. We're in the change business. You could be focused in some of these areas. And remember, why don't people change? They don't think they have time. They don't think they have money. They don't think they have knowledge. But most importantly, none of those things matter. Not time, money, or knowledge. It's fear of change. The fourth reason that people don't change that holds them back. People have a fear that if they try to change and they fail, then people won't care about them. And that's spiritual death. And as you talk to people in your life and try to convince them, motivate them, remember that people will not really change based on what they know. They will change based on how they feel. Get them to feel differently. And people are only going to care about what you know after they know that you care. Think about that. They only care about what you know until only after they know that you care about them. So social responsibility is not just some altruistic issue out there. You ought to be leveraging your brands by showing that you do care. Because think about 70,000 years ago when humans were first able to leave Africa. They were able to leave because they were able to believe in something that was intangible but outside of us and bigger than us. Because the species has been around for 300,000 years. For 230,000 years, we did not leave. It took us that long to figure out there were bigger things than us out there. And by the way, this is not just about religion. Capitalism is bigger than us, right? Signing allegiances that allowed humans to become warriors. All these were part of this process. But our minds grew to the current size so we could see each other's faces and assess each other's voices and understand subtle things that our cognitive mind, our prefrontal cortex couldn't quite get. But as that prefrontal cortex grew and we learned how to have empathy towards each other and mirror each other, it has allowed our species to thrive. So only ignore it at your own peril. But I know you won't, because you guys are entrepreneurs. You're the leaders, and I really am honored to be allowed to spend a few minutes of your time sharing some of my insights. Have a wonderful conference. God bless you all.
As the countdown to the transition ceremony begins, we're going to do a lightning round Turkish retrospective led by Ali Sabanci, the chairman of the Istanbul Organizing Committee platform for the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. Participating with Murat, the head of strategic planning and business development for Fiba Group, Emre Zorlu, board member of Zorlu Holding, and Cansen Basaran Symes, the chair of Allianz Turkey. Thank you.
With the mic. Stand by for the live.
So this is the last session before transition, right? Okay, so I'm gonna make sure that this is extra long for our Bahraini friends. Guys, this is an honor for me. I have 3 peers here. I hope I can call you peers.
Sure.
Why, thank you.
Honored.
Thank you.
You are much younger.
I'm much younger, and I'm much more full of surprise. We will show you how to belly dance in a little bit. We will not do that. You know, most of the Turkish people here in the audience know who each of these people are. But for the benefit of those who are not Turkish, I want to spend 2-3 minutes of each person's time explaining who they are, what they do, and why they're so interesting. And I'd like to start with, if it's okay with you guys, with Cansen Hanım.
Okay. Hanım.
Cansen Hanım, which means Miss Cansen with an honor attached to it. Start, please, from the early days in the 1960s. As early
Yes,
as
1960s, when I born.
You were born,
But
okay.
I'm not going that back, okay? Okay. 32 years in one company, PwC, because I graduated and joined. Therefore, I mean, you can imagine how, dedicated I am. Last 5 years, I'm chairwoman of Allianz, Turkey. I also a member of Allianz International Advisory Board, and I have a number of NGO heads, either board member or advisory. I'm not going to waste your time on that.
Candice, would you like to say something? You don't have to have a microphone, honey. We can hear you. Okay.
Because we have limited time, you know.
No, I think one of the issues is Candice gave that reaction because you forgot to mention that you're the head of one of the leading, if not the most influential business NGOs in Turkey, TÜSİAD.
Yeah.
But you don't want to talk. Okay.
It was past, okay? I just explained current, actually. Anyway,
Okay.
yes, TÜSİAD is actually represent 70%, Turkish economy, more than 60% of corporate tax. For 2 years, I was president of that organization.
So she brings diverse background, and she'll share with us in a few moments once we get to know the other panelists. So can I pass this on to Emre?
Hello.
Please explain to us the entrepreneur nature of what your background is.
All right.
Please.
Well, I have been in the same group 34 years old. So since the birth of them, so I'm just ahead of you. I'm just showing you. Do you? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Well, I don't find myself very interesting, so it's really hard for me to give an answer for that. But I'm the third generation of the Zorlu group. I'm the youngest one, and luckily I'm the only engineer within the family. So every kind of technology, when people come and knock our door and say that we have this kind of technology which will be revolutionize the world, you have to be part of it and kind of thing. So everyone comes to me, Emre, have a look at this, have a look at that, and it seems like that kind of new technologies just started to stick to me. And from that point on, I started to become more involved with startups and what the ecosystem within the startups. And 3 years ago, we just established our corporate venture capital. So we make investments not just only in Turkey, but we look at abroad as well. Especially we are looking at US and Israel startups, which is a huge ecosystem. But one of the key things for us is that the reason we are investing in these ecosystems is that we would like to create a bridge between Turkey and those ecosystems. So that's what we are trying to do differently than maybe other corporate ventures or venture capitals. On the other way, within the group, we are more trying to focus on actually social entrepreneurship. So it's a personal preferences, but I believe that the future of the startups is going to be more about impact, more about social problems, because more and more the world is becoming more complicated, and to have solutions for these complicated problems, it's impossible for us to handle them just by ourselves. So what we have to do is actually the government, the institutions, the NGOs, and the private sector has to come together and create this ecosystem, and we just create this environment for the startups to find these solutions for these complicated social problems. And I believe that the future of the companies will be the ones that who are actually linking their products, their services to those values that and problems of the society.
I think for sustainability, this combination is.
I think so. I mean, we call this as a shared value kind of theme, where the customer and the public and the private sector is actually concentrated on a shared value.
Okay. Emre, just to put things into a little bit perspective, is it possible to explain and to show our friends here what a land of true opportunity it is, this country? Can you explain a little bit about what the Zorlu group does and for how long, let's say the second generation, as we know the founders, how long have they been working? It's not centuries, right, by nature?
It's not centuries,
Okay.
but actually this is our 65th year.
Okay.
We have various investments around the different businesses. These are including consumer electronics, energy sector, textile, real estate, mining, and hopefully new things are coming. But one thing I believe is that defining these businesses is not that important because I think more businesses are actually interchanging within themselves, among themselves. And it seems like, for example, I have seen a lot of synergies between our energy business and our consumer electronic business. And the reason for that, we try to change our minds in such a way that instead of just selling the product, we are trying to create a value for the customer. And when you start to define it in such a way, then the solution is actually more complicated. But once you get that solution, there is more value for the customer and for the business itself as well.
Okay, thank you. So we'll discuss innovation in a little bit in big organizations. Murat Ozyegin, can you explain a little bit parallel to what Emre said about your background, who you are?
Surely. I am the second generation member of a family group in Turkey. We operate mainly in energy, mining, banking, real estate, and retailing. With respect to, and I'm the chairperson of the non-financial businesses of our group, and the banking group is mainly run by my father, who is the founder of our group. I'm a proud board member of Ozyegin University, our family foundation university, and also a proud board member of Endeavor Turkey as well. I chaired it for 3 years, up until 2 years ago. And now Emre, and handed over to Emre, which has very successfully taken over it ever since. Not this Emre Kurttepeli, but this Emre is also a board member alongside us at Endeavor. And I'm also the vice chairman of TÜSİAD, which I joined with Cansen when she was chairing it 3 years ago. And now I'm also doing my second term as we speak with our new chairman. So that's about it with respect to my work and NGO interests.
Okay, I think this panel is being very humble. I mean, if I have done half the things that they have done, I would have been speaking for 15 minutes. Let me tell you, Emre, one story from 1994. Okay, I'm working for Morgan Stanley, 1994, and this company called Vestel became up for sale. Vestel is the consumer electronics business that Emre just mentioned in passing, which is probably one of the largest, perhaps, under one roof in the world.
It is.
Right? It is, right?
It's expanding.
And the group that I was working for then wanted to buy Vestel. And the advice of Morgan Stanley was that this thing's not worth more than $30 million. And we passed. Sometimes you have to admit some big mistakes of passing, right? So they produce consumer electronics all over the world. And with respect to Murat and his family, they have brought more foreign investment into this country in the finance sector than anybody else. Selling your bank and then reinvesting the funds in this country. So I have to be very thankful as a Turk. So if I was them, I'd be talking more, but they're conscious of time. And Cansen Hanım, who now I want to talk a little bit about innovation. And I think the challenge is you've worked with huge names, and you continue to work with huge names like, PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC. Wow, global, Allianz, global. How do you continue, if ever, this innovation culture within, how did you in PwC and how do you in Allianz? Because if you stop and stand still, you're actually falling behind, right?
Okay, I think I am the only corporate girl at this panel.
You're the only girl, for sure. About the corporate girl, about the corporate, I don't know.
No, you are all entrepreneurs anyway. But
Okay.
yes, I joined PwC actually after I graduated from university. Actually, the first Turkish students when they opened first office in Turkey. All right. Therefore, my experience is basically to see development of the the companies invest to Turkey, and then when I left, for example, after 32 years, it was over. Almost 2,000 people, 35 partners. I mean, I was the first one. Therefore, I always feel that, the entrepreneurship actually in a corporate world is key for the development. I think everybody limits entrepreneurship like, only for real entrepreneurs. And I remember actually, I challenged an audience at World Economic Forum at year 2001 because 2000, I was elected one of the global leaders for tomorrow, and I had a great chance as a young leader to join many of their Davos meetings, and also for several years I helped them for creating, the global agenda. At one panel, everybody were talking about, the limiting entrepreneurship that just for, the people. Establish their own business. It's completely wrong. If you look at either PwC or Allianz, I mean, they have long history, why they still exist and why they are still big brand, because they have entrepreneurship culture, they see the next wave, they invest people, and they invest innovation culture. I mean, for example, in Allianz, we have amazing corporate entrepreneurship programs. But I think another key point there is really you can run this program, but if you don't have an agile organization, and if you lock yourself in hierarchy, you can't do neither innovation or entrepreneurship culture. I was very lucky to work with two major brands. They were very much willing to invest people, innovation, and entrepreneurship culture. For example, in Allianz, I mean, worldwide we have many programs, even for innovation workspace. We have separate entity called Allianz X. I mean, I urge you, if you go to Twitter, just type Allianz X, you will see what we do there. We invest a lot of disruptive technologies. For example, globally, we had a fund, apart from Allianz X, over 430, actually over 400 million euro, exactly 430 million euro, just to invest for, new disruptive technologies.
This is outside, corporate-wise, outside?
Yes, it's a allocated fund.
Okay.
I think, therefore, the big corporations, especially today's world, everybody talking about disruption, how much technology changed the way we do business. I think the successful major brands actually aware of it and invest a lot. For example, in Turkey, we also invest entrepreneurship hubs, startups, and recently with Istanbul Technical University, actually we created InsurTech, and through that actually initiative, we have an access to technoparks. Therefore, we do wide range of things. Therefore, I mean, corporate world always excite me because you have great space and leadership to make the changes. And I was very lucky to work 2 years with one, and last 14 years actually in PwC. I was leading Turkish operation, and I had, great enjoyment to be part of Eurofirm board and Central and Eastern European board when, Russia and all the Central and Eastern countries change. Actually, early 1990s, I led innovation group in PwC worldwide, and I mean, it was really great fun. Therefore, I think innovation culture, maybe we underestimate, but seeded by big brands. I think they have ownership, and I think for the future, actually, what we will see, some of those startups, probably they will exercise their own limits, but for them become more valuable engines, probably the big corporates will acquire them and make it even better business cases for global economy. That's my belief.
So I think, so what you're saying is the trick is to be agile in a big, like a dancing elephant.
Yes.
So to say.
If you can't dance, you don't do anything.
If you don't dance, you don't get paid. I think I remember reading somewhere about Allianz Turkey and how periodically they have meetings on what did we do wrong today.
Of course. I think.
And that's how this is something very interesting. I would love to hear about this offline from you. But to have a culture of admitting your mistakes,
yep,
I think gives you that agility and humility to learn from your mistakes.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you. Emre, you mentioned about CVC. And the generation before you were two brothers, right? Am I wrong?
You're talking about my father and my uncle?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
The second generation.
The second generation is two brothers. So how is do you see eye to eye, your generation and the previous generation, on what's the path of innovation, and what do you? I don't know if you can tell this openly here, but we won't tell. Nobody's watching.
Okay, no problem. And
so share with us.
Turn off the cameras as well. So let's start. Well, when I look at my elders, my uncle and my father, for myself, it's really challenging for them to see always into the business and always risking what they have and putting that money into new businesses and just making growth. So even though my family's, I mean, in genes they have this startup-like soul. When I look at myself, I don't see that actually. So, it's really challenging stuff. So even if we are sitting on a dinner, every kind of conversation is ending up is it a good business or a bad business kind of thing. So and you're always calculating. I'm sure that you have the same kind of
I do.
dinner speeches and everything.
Absolutely.
And it's really challenging for me. But the good thing about this challenge is it improves you. So you have to find ways to upgrade yourself on their level of on their level actually. And what I have found is that instead of just listening to yourself and just trying to improve yourself, if you start to invest in the ecosystem, that feeds you a lot with the knowledge. It's not just about only the knowledge. I think it's about the perception, about it's discussing more. And one thing I find myself where my older generation is lacking is that they listen to other people, but in a really limited way, because they have their trusted circle. Well, for me, I don't like to create that trusted circle kind of thing. So any kind of information has to flow through me, and I mean that information has to that the person has to have the ability to discuss me. I mean, like, and fight about his or her thoughts, so that intellectually I can grow myself.
So, are you saying that you don't, I hope you're saying this, that you don't like to necessarily work with people who are your same?
If I disagree with them, I like more.
Exactly right. So people who are different than you like
Yeah,
to work
I mean,
with.
I really like people to discuss and just fight about their thoughts till the end.
Yes.
So that, and I think their work has to be, they have to convince me to do whatever they want. So they have to
Otherwise, you
push
can
me.
work with mirrors.
Yeah,
Look at yourself in the mirror. the whole time.
then it's just making decisions, and easily they can just hand that over to you, and you can make the decision whatever you want, yes or no, or invest
Wonderful.
or not.
So, Murat, allow me to ask you, Emre mentioned investing in your ecosystem. You know, you guys as a family, you, your sister, your dad, your mom, you're very well known for the achievements that you have in the business world. But I think if I were to ask you or your father, what is the asset or the investment that you're most proud of? It might be the university,
Yes,
right?
it is.
So, investing in the ecosystem and Ozyegin University and the rest of the Fiba group, how does that all fit together? Can you give us a little bit?
Well, Ali, the founding of a university is a very special experience. And this happened to me right after I came back from the US from my MBA. And that was the year that we, as a family, have initiated the thoughts around Ozyegin. And I mean, this was like a very different world, extremely decentralized with respect to the academic aspects. So whatever, professor or division to be found or hired and so forth, it was all in the hands of our president, the elect president then, a good friend of yours.
Yes,
Erhan
of the
Erkut,
school.
of the university.
Yes.
And, finding the campus around those elements, building up all the buildings, how big to make the library,
Yes.
how big to make the food court and everything. All of these aspects was really almost playing like a SimCity game. It was truly unbelievable. I think the most remarkable exercise all of us have ever tackled, and the one that we're most proud of. And today it hosts 10,500 students, and it's constantly ranked among the top 5 innovative universities in Turkey. And
In how many years?
in only 10 years now, we did great things with you with respect to entrepreneurship congresses. We did great things with Vestel with respect to granting MBA, e-MBA programs to their management teams. And now we're producing around 200 architects, 300 lawyers, 300 business graduates, 400 engineers per year as we speak. And we are extremely proud of that. This has truly been the most innovative, most exciting entrepreneurship experience that I had. Everything I told you about in terms of building the campus, everything had to be extended because it always became bigger than we thought. And we really came to this point in a very exciting way, feeding the system through the proceeds of our business profits from our family organizations and so forth. And this also created an incredible satisfaction to our employees, to our management teams. When I speak to some of my CEOs of our group companies, what satisfies you the most? They say, making the pledge to Ozyegin University at the end of the year, rather than paying dividends, to make the pledge to the university in terms of its new, technopark, its new investments, its new divisions, and so forth. So this really has instilled an incredible culture within our group and increased the level of competence alongside satisfaction of our management teams and our employees as well. And the whole group and the business group and our foundation is really very much working together to make it better going forward too. So it's been a great ride, I must admit.
Yeah, allow me to share how it looks from outside, from my perspective. Whenever I talk to you about this subject, or whenever I'm invited over to the university, and your dad is there, he's at least 10 centimeters taller. You know, and I have to tell you, the first time I got invited to this university for a panel, the panel was about failures.
Failures, yes.
Right? So these guys have a way of turning things upside down, and we had to discuss our failures until I found out that Murat's father was also on the panel. I could not figure out why they invited me, because I simply did not have any failures. Of course, it's not true. Endeavor's current chief was there, and I slipped the ball to him. I said, I understand why he's here. He's had many failures. I don't understand. I think this is the most watched YouTube video of mine so far. So it's a very honorable endeavor.
Ali, to wrap up regarding the university, I think I felt like this is also about change and innovation too, but the key there was the multiplier effect. What you do, what you invent, what your professors, your master students, your students themselves create in terms of innovation, R&D, and so forth. And the multiplier effect you make off of that is simply not comparable to any other business affair that we have.
And imagine the morale.
Yes.
The morale is invaluable. So just before we wrap up, I want to touch two more ideas: women and youth. Can you guys share with us, either on women or on youth, or both if you wish, what your organizations are doing and where you're placing youth and women in the organization? Would you like to start?
Sure. I mean, we support quite a few youth initiatives. One major one is TÜSİAD actually. Bu Gençlikte İş Var is the brand, basically for the university students has good ideas and entrepreneurship ideas. It's quite a deep selection process, and Allianz sponsored that initiative. And when I was TÜSİAD chair, actually, I fully enjoy basically expanding that program with Murat. Murat was the board member responsible for that. In terms of women, I mean, we support Turkish Win. It's a global organization as well. And also we support women's comeback to the business called Bin Yaprak in Turkish. I don't know, in English translation is Thousand Leaves. It makes sense. I'm also actually advisory board member of Financial Literature Association. I personally think if we want to invest in women and entrepreneurship, they have to be financially literate.
Yes.
Therefore, actually, I involved that foundation right from the beginning, helped the board, established the board, and we have many women initiatives and different segments of the, the women's, housewives, young girls, farmers, educated women, and it's a great project, and we give quite a support on that, and I'm the advisory board member.
And you're a perfect example of women leaders in the corporate world. Thank you. Thank you very much. Emre, you want to talk a little bit about the same subject?
Sure. 1.5 years ago, we just signed the UN's Women Empowerment Principles. The number of, the 35% of our workers is actually women, but unfortunately, the upper management, when you look at the upper management, unfortunately, this is in 14%. So in next...
Allianz.
Yeah. Sorry.
Chairwoman, CEO,
yeah.
And almost 50% of executive team women.
And the other 50%?
We don't care.
Yeah, we don't care.
Talented man.
All right.
Okay.
But we would like to improve that, actually. We would like to have as same as the 30, I mean, we like to get it to the 35%, actually. And to do that, actually, we signed the agreement with Kagidar, which they created a new platform, equal opportunities model, where they will have they will make us a blueprint for how to improve that number.
Okay.
For the youth, actually, we have a foundation, Mehmet Zorlu Family Foundation, and we started to change our minds in there. And instead of just giving away grants, we started to create a new whole year class where we define it as 21st century skill sets, where here we have design thinking classes, new media literacy, collaborative working skills, and critical thinking. And the design is coming from Erhan Aykut.
From Erhan Hoca?
Yes, from Erhan Hoca.
Let's plug him in.
Yes,
thank you.
Yes. And yes, definitely. And what we are trying to do is actually, this is not only for our Mehmet Zorlu Foundation scholars, it's also open to the other scholars. For example, we are working with Girvak, and their students also join to our system. And now we actually open sourced all these information. So any student can come to our mezeve.com and actually watch the videos, live streams from our platform, and join to the discussion and ask questions to different people from the system. And finally, it's not only that teaching is important, but they have to use these skill sets in an environment. So we also design an internship program within our group as well for these people.
Well, I have to tell you, you're not talking about these enough. I just find out because of the work I have to do for this panel. So thank you very much, Emre. And Murat, shall we finish with you and the women?
Yes.
Because you've talked a little bit about the youth.
Yes, I did, but I'll quickly touch upon a couple of more on youth, if you don't mind, Ali. One of the most important things that our family foundation does is also Mother and Child Educational Foundation, which is focused on preschool children. It's the largest preschool organization in Turkey outside of the grants or the help provided by the government, 100,000 students per year. And the same foundation also trains mothers to be better mothers, not only in Turkey, but also in the Middle East and Africa, and further out into Southeast Asia, now in Afghanistan as well. Of course, with respect to youth, Ozyegin is an area of a huge focus for us. Again, as Cansen mentioned, our Bu Gençlik'te İş Var competition at TÜSİAD, this year we focused on women there, and we have 40%, we increased our, with respect to applications, 20% to 40%. We doubled the ratio of women applying to that program, which we're proud of. Other than that, Ali, our groups, this is coming from, I don't want him to feel bad here because we're more of a services industry, so they are more industrial. But we're proudly ranked as #1 in terms of both women employees and top management in Turkey. 57% women employees in our group, and 53% women management. So more than half of our CEOs are women in our group, and we're proud of that. And we're now in the process of also making our boards more women oriented as well, as we attend certain training and mentoring programs in that respect and so forth. So these are the main pillars of our approach to youth and women.
Well, I have to say I can go on until next year in April when we start in Bahrain, and we can do the handover in Bahrain if you want.
But I think we just mentioned Murat's father, Hüsnü Bey. Yes, he's a great entrepreneur, but I think we have to mention his mother, Ayşe Özyeğin.
Of course, who does
She's the one created Achev and many of your social initiatives. I mean, therefore, I think we have to.
Hüsnü Bey is a good man, but your mom is a great woman. Absolutely.
Every man has a great woman behind. So.
Thank you very much, and let's wrap this panel up. Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage for our final session, Jonathan Ortmans.
Okay, all right, okay. Well, I'm not sure where we begin, how we can possibly thank you, Ali, for all of your gracious hospitality, for the extraordinary hard work. Yes, bring me the flag, please. Yeah, no. Thank you, Turkey. Thank you. Come and hold it with me, Ali. It's getting heavy. Okay.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Can I take it back?
Please, yes.
Thank you.
Ali Sabanci is truly a global leader, and we're so honored that he has been our host, but he's also been the great negotiator in bringing together a lot of entities and individuals and resources and commitment to this event. And Ali, I know that we also thank, of course, Tob and Tim and Habitat and Sabanci and Coach. I mean, really wonderful support that we've had here from all the partners. And I think what's important to tell you is that we are very, very excited about this journey having begun here in Turkey. And we very much look forward, Ali and I both, to some great outcomes and outputs from this that we hope will help not just the global entrepreneurial ecosystem, but also will be in the interest of Turkey. And so stay tuned. We are talking. We've got ideas and visions. But to everybody from Turkey, I want to say this is the beginning of our journey together. It's the next chapter we have. We've had 10 years together already, and it's time for us to start our next chapter. So Ali, thank you so much indeed. So on behalf of all of the international community, you know, I also want to thank the international community for all of your energy, your insights, and indeed, frankly, your love. This community has built so much trust, so much care for each other, so much generosity. It's not just talent, it's talent and trust that has really made this community so influential and powerful. And I am just so honored to be one curator helping in the process of enabling you to do more, bigger and better things together. I want to thank some of the people that are really getting behind us. I mean, Elizabeth, we are so proud of our partnership with Alice, and I hope you all got to see the great new AI technology for entrepreneurs, especially for women entrepreneurs. And we just think that your leadership and role around the world has just been phenomenal. Having partners like you has been phenomenal. And I also want to thank Stefan and Gary and all the new team around Gen Space. We're going to go to Mars together. We're going to go to Mars in the sense of we're going to find whole new industries in the new space industry. We're so proud of Gen Space was rolled out at this conference. And Ali, when we're going to be coming to you because we're going to have ideas for new companies for you. So you'll be the first person. You'll have first refusal. Is that all right, Stefan? All right, okay. And of course, Candace, thank you so much. I know that you've been the original space entrepreneur, so you're going to bring wisdom to this young whippersnapper here who's trying to lead us into space. It's so funny, actually, and I want to thank all the national delegations. You know, we gave we saw lots of wonderful accomplishments, and it's wonderful to come together. And one of the things, Didem was just tremendous at really helping us with all of the Turkey team in putting on a lovely dinner on Monday night. And with Sabanci, it was just fantastic because, you have to understand that for us, there's a very rare array of opportunities for us all to recognize and say thank you to people who work tirelessly to achieve the kind of results that we hope that they can achieve. So thank you again, Didem, for all of your work over these 9 months. But as you know, all good things have to come to an end. And so soon we will be moving in to celebrate the conclusion of our official program. I do want to remind all of the GEN delegates that we have multiple work meetings arranged for you tomorrow. Transportation will be provided at 9 o'clock in the morning. And if you have any questions, please see anybody on the GEN team staff. However, tonight is our night to celebrate what Turkey gave us, to celebrate each other, but also tonight of the night is we're going to get to celebrate where we're going next year. In my opening remarks on Monday, which not all of you saw, we had many of us there, I tried to talk about what we've accomplished as a community in 10 years and what we can accomplish as a community in the next 10 years. And just as we're at this intersection of East and West, we're at a very important intersection of Gen being 10. And so I hope that as we celebrate the past of this week, we're also going to celebrate the future. And there are many ways we'll do this. We're going to celebrate both with a closing party at Bamontiada, which is walking distance across the street. And we're also going to have an entrepreneurship learning reception on the 34th floor. And of course, we're going to have a women's ecosystem leaders celebration on the 34th floor. And we're also going to have another celebration in the campus room for Ulukaya initiative here, hosted by here in Turkey. So there's going to be wonderful celebrations this evening. But there is also going to be a celebration to welcome you into this next chapter, hosted by the next country that will be hosting the Global Entrepreneurship Congress. And so without further ado, I'd like to ask you to welcome to the stage someone who actually we didn't think we were going to be able to get him here in person. He is the CEO of Tamkeen. Please welcome Ebrahim Janahi from the Kingdom of Bahrain.
I have another one. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ortman, for your excellent introduction. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I would like to start by thanking you all for joining us in this gathering, which marks an important milestone for the Kingdom of Bahrain and the Global Entrepreneurship Network, GEN. The international community's faith in our economy and future vision has allowed us to maintain a strong position as a regional hub for trade, innovation, and growth. I take this opportunity to thank GEN for awarding the Kingdom of Bahrain the honor of hosting the Global Entrepreneurship Congress in April 2019, further confirming the country's position as a business-friendly nation and an international pioneer in the field of entrepreneurship and business innovation. Tamkeen and GEN will bring together thousands of entrepreneurs, investors, researchers, policymakers, and startups from more than 170 countries to identify new ways of starting and scaling ventures around the world. The growing local ecosystem produced many success stories, positioning Bahrain as an ideal market for innovators to launch their concepts and to provide access to the wider MENA region. We are extremely delighted and look forward to receiving participants from all over the world to share knowledge, exchange views, experiences, and ideas about the future of entrepreneurship as a promising platform towards total development, and at the same time allowing us to showcase our unique experience in providing the maximum support possible primed to success. I would like to end by thanking the government of Turkey, the organizing committee, and Jen for hosting Global Entrepreneurship Congress 2018, and to invite you to join us at the Bahrain Reception, which will take place right after the panel session at 6 p.m. Thank you all, and looking forward to seeing you all next year in Bahrain.
Business friendly is not just a slogan. It's actually an aspiration that we challenge ourselves to live up to every single day.
You can find people from all over the world. It's a very open-minded country in the sense that everyone coexists very peacefully and amazingly here. It's just a really beautiful place to be.
I think what makes us unique is that if you arrive into Bahrain, you are likely to be driven in your taxi by a Bahraini, to be checked into your hotel by a Bahraini. You'll have an interaction with the people of the country.
We have a very high level of education in Bahrain. This has created a tech-savvy population that are always demanding for the latest technology.
Any young Bahraini woman who is looking to draw inspiration can just look all around her. There are women on boards, women who run family businesses, who are ambassadors, ministers.
We don't believe in zones for our businesses. We don't create a separate zone where that business can have certain privileges and ownership rights. We consider our whole country a zone.
Geographical position belonging to the GCC are very strong advantages.
In the late 60s, we took upon ourselves to diversify from oil, so we started our diversification program more than 40 years ago, and today we continue to do that.
Bahrain is very focused on developing a pipeline of infrastructure investment.
In total, we have about $32 billion worth of investments. We'll see projects materialize within the next 3 to 4 years.
It's part of a longer strategy, and certainly it will provide work. It will provide also opportunities for foreign companies to work downstream, to be part of construction.
We expect to have a large multiplier effect of the money being spent on these projects to filter through the economy.
You only have to ask the investors that have been established here how much they've grown, how much they've enjoyed their presence here, and how lucrative it has been for them.
The one thing that I would choose above anything else in Bahrain is the people. They're my family.
What you will remember in any visit is the people you've met, the impressions they left you with. And I think you'll find in Bahrain that friendly, approachable population that you'll make friends with, you'll remember, and they'll stick in your mind with you.
We would like to now invite our esteemed panelists on stage. Dr. Sheikh Abdullah bin Ahmed Al Khalifa, Undersecretary for International Affairs at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Sheikh Khalid bin Hamoud Al Khalifa, CEO of Bahrain Tourism and Exhibition Authority. Mr. Osama Al-Urayad, Undersecretary for Industry Affairs at the Ministry of Industry, Commerce and Tourism. Mr. Qasay Al-Urayad, Chief Operations Officer at Tamkeen. Finally, Dr. Simon Galpin, Managing Director of the Economic Development Board.
Good afternoon, everybody. It's an absolute pleasure to be here. I would like to thank the GEN and our Turkish hosts for granting us this opportunity to talk about Bahrain's relationship with the global community. Ever since antiquity, Bahrain has been a country with a deep cultural and commercial ties to the rest of the world. Its strategic location and natural springs has made it a key trading center, engaging other civilizations culturally and economically. In the 20th century, Bahrain's relationship with the rest of the world has continued to blossom, especially in the economic domain. In 2016, Bahrain's trade with the world represented 140% of its GDP, ranking in the top 20 in the world. Our exports reaches as far as China and Japan. We have a free trade agreement with the United States of America, and our imports come from as far away as Brazil and Australia. As a small country, we understand the need to engage the globe commercially, to provide a high standard of living for our citizens. As a country with a historic place in the global community, we have the culture required to see trade as an opportunity for mutual gain. But it is in the openness and the progressiveness of our labor markets where Bahrain really stands out. We strongly believe in multilateralism. Bahrain is a member of the United Nations since 1971. Bahrain is a founder and an active member of the Gulf Cooperation Council. It's an active member in the Arab League, in the Non-Aligned Movement, in the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, an active partner in the Istanbul Cooperation Initiative of the NATO. Bahrain is an active member in many United Nations agencies and organizations and contribute wherever possible to the international peace and prosperity. We work with over a dozen UN agencies, both locally and regionally, and work with all of them to achieve the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. The government of Bahrain signed a strategic partnership framework for the years 2018 to 2022 with 16 UN agencies. The UNIDO, the United Nations Industrial Development Organization, ITPO office, the Investment and Trade Promotion Office in Bahrain, since 1996, have been central in sharing Bahrain's success model of economic empowerment and entrepreneurship to the entire world. As a global citizen, Bahrain recognizes that the world is a platform for us all to learn and engage with each other and share each other's experiences. 48 countries around the world found the Bahrain model as a model to be implemented. And today, they are implementing it. This is one of many achievements in Bahrain that we are proud of. The Kingdom of Bahrain is ranked by the United Nations Development Program as a country with a very high human development. This came through Bahrain's achievement of the Millennium Development Goals prior to its due date, and its commitment to the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals agenda. The government is committed to align the national plans, the strategic frameworks and policies with the Sustainable Development Goals. Bahrain will be presenting its first voluntary national report and the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals before the high-level political forum of the ECOSOC, the Economic and Social Council of the United Nations, next July. We will also launch a national human development report later this year in collaboration with the United Nations Development Program. Any successful entrepreneur will tell you that the key to success is openness. And this indeed is our way of life in Bahrain. But I don't want you to take my word for this. I want you to see for yourself firsthand in April 2019 in Bahrain. I thank you so very much.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Khalid Al Khalifa. I'm the CEO of Tourism and Exhibitions Authority in the Kingdom of Bahrain. First of all, I would like to thank Jen for inviting us today and the government of Turkey for their kind welcomeness. Furthermore, I would like to highlight a few points about the Kingdom of Bahrain in terms of the tourism and exhibition sector. First of all, when it comes to tourism, our number one asset is the people of Bahrain. We were blessed with the kind and open-minded people of Bahrain. We're an island in the Arabian Gulf, and we have been opened to all different international countries throughout civilization. And we have two World Heritage United UNESCO, the UNESCO World Heritage Sites, Bahrain Fort and the Pearl Route. Bahrain has a civilization of 5,000 years, and we have been, alhamdulillah, being able to sustain the development in the country while preserving our rich culture. We have a lot of good news that happened since the year 2018. We discovered the largest oil field in Bahrain's history. It has been announced almost 2 weeks ago. And now there are a lot of projects in the pipeline in the kingdom when it comes to the tourism infrastructure. For instance, we are expanding our airport on a $1.6 billion expansion, where it will hopefully be able to consume 4 times the size of passengers that we currently receive to the kingdom. As well, as we speak, there are 17 hotels under construction with almost $11 billion worth of investments. Another very important project that the Bahrain Tourism and Exhibition Authority is looking over is the new exhibition center. As you all know, the MICE sector is a very important sector, and when I say by MICE, it's meetings, incentives, conferences, and exhibitions. We will build the largest exhibition and convention center in the Arabian Gulf, and we will start groundwork by the end of the year. Hopefully by the year 2020, we will have the largest facilities for events and conferences in the region. Moreover, I was glad that yesterday I received the numbers and statistics of the tourism growth in the kingdom. So, in a nutshell, I would like to say that in the past 3 years, we were able to double the GDP contribution to the economy. So the tourism sector jumped from 3.5% in the year 2014 to 6.9% in the year 2017. So today, the tourism sector is one of the fundamental components of our economy. Something that I would like to announce for the first time, actually, because these numbers are fresh and new. The total visitors that came to Bahrain in the first quarter in the year 2018 compared by the year 2017 has increased by 12%, adding up to 3.4 million visitors. The tourism nights, and when I say tourism nights, the actual nights that the tourists spent in Bahrain have rose by 20% in comparison by the first quarter of the year 2017, adding up to 4.1 million nights. The average length of stay in the first quarter of 2017 was 2.8 nights in Bahrain, and we're glad to announce today that it jumped up to 3.3 nights. The total tourism expenditure for the first quarter of the year 2017, the year 2018 had increased by 31%, adding up to $1.3 billion. So all of these indicators is a clear sign that there's growth, and sustainable growth in the kingdom, and it's an excellent platform for entrepreneurs. I've met many Bahrainis and non-Bahrainis who actually came to Bahrain. There's a well-known English company now based in Bahrain. They started 7 years ago in Bahrain. They started with designing different applications in their mobile phones for events, transportation, and today that company has a turnover of $2 million to $3 million. And there are other types of innovations that can be utilized in the kingdom when it comes to tourism. As I was walking last night in Istanbul and got a chance to look at different services that are available here that can also be done in Bahrain, such as the marine services, the maritime adventure games. All of these things are things that you should look for. Inshallah, we will welcome you in the year 2019 in April, and it will be an excellent eye-opener to all the entrepreneurs to have a look at Bahrain's platform. I would like to conclude by saying that we have built a strategy that consisted of 4 A's: accessibility, attractions, accommodation, and attractions. When it comes to accessibility, we relaxed our visa procedures highly. We have 86 countries that has visa upon arrival. Turkey was the first country where we actually waived the visa fees. So any of the Turkish tourists can come to Bahrain with their visa fees waived. And for Jan, hopefully, the Bahrain Tourism and Exhibition Authority will take special care of all the visa processes, so any country can apply, and we will make sure your visas are processed within a maximum of 3 days. Thank you. When it comes to accommodation, accommodation is when we looked at the hotel infrastructure. So we are looking at opportunities of investment, missing gaps in the market. I can assure you that we need 4-star hotels with beachfronts. And today, the Economic Development Board, Simon is with us here today. So the government, we will work together to provide land to investors to build 4-star beachfront hotels. These are some concepts that we can work together with. When it comes to attractions, we have long-term and short-term attractions. You can go to calendar.bh and look at all of the events and forums, exhibitions that are going in Bahrain throughout the year. So that would keep you posted till you visit us. And finally, awareness. We have launched 7 offices representing Bahrain in the UK, France, Germany, India, Russia, China, and Saudi Arabia. And hopefully now we're looking at Turkey to have an office here to represent Bahrain. We have almost 4 flights, direct flights to Bahrain on daily basis. So inshallah, we can increase the tourism between 2 countries. So I hope 5 minutes is not enough to talk about the tourism spectrum in the kingdom, but I hope I was able to give you some glimpse of what we have to offer. Thank you very much.
It's always great to be here in Istanbul, but it's privilege to address an audience like yourselves. My name is Osama Al-Arayid. I am the Undersecretary for Industry Affairs. And what I'll be or try to deliver to you, what are we trying to do to help entrepreneurs in Bahrain to flourish their ideas. Actually, at the beginning, there are different entities in the kingdom that provide services to entrepreneurs and to small and medium enterprises. However, they were not connecting or communicating all together. So the efforts was scattered. So the first thing we've done in the Kingdom of Bahrain and to establish an SME development, if you want, board, to put all the efforts under one umbrella and to direct that efforts to maximize the benefit of it to the entrepreneurs and the small and medium enterprises. Having done that, we restructured also the directorate, which is responsible for SMEs development in the ministry, to go with whatever the trends are, and also to review all the laws and regulations that entertain this sector, if you want. So we've done a review of the laws that regulate it, and we updated them, and we are yet to review and introduce new laws for example, the bankruptcy law. We are trying to introduce something like that, which doesn't exist in Bahrain now. In addition, we streamline the process and make it easy for businesses, for ideas or entrepreneurs to start their businesses. So we introduced a new system which is online, and we call it Sijillat, which means records in English. And with that system, in 90 seconds, an entrepreneur can establish her or his entity and then add whatever activities they would like. So it's like a birth certificate. So in 90 seconds, and that's a record. In some countries, it takes days to establish that, or even months. On top of that, we introduced a new thing or a new activity which is called Sijilli, or My Record, which is a virtual, if you want, commercial registration for entrepreneurs who don't need to have a physical, if you want, address. So they provide their service online. So they don't need an address. And that didn't exist. And with that, we have like a number of activities, for example, consultancy services or translation services or any activity that doesn't need a physical address. Also, we introduced a new activity, which is accelerator and incubator, and to help companies that want to create, if you want, an environment or a platform for entrepreneurs to join them under one address, one umbrella. And that proved to be successful since the inception last year. We also, specifically for the industrial activities, we provide certain incentives. We provide inexpensive land to promote the industrial sector. We also provide exemption on duties on raw materials, machineries, and spare parts. And what else? The whole idea is to have all these, if you want, entities or to be part of that ecosystem for entrepreneurship. I think I covered it all. I don't know and I'll be willing to answer any questions. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Qasal Arayat. It's my first time in Istanbul and definitely won't be the last. Can't miss the donors, their beautiful food. I work for an organization called Tamkeen. Tamkeen actually means enablement. And before I get into my organization, I would like to share with you a couple of facts about Bahrain. We're a small island, tiny island, population of 1.5 million. 48% of our population are immigrants, and since the discovery of oil in the 30s, our economy has changed dramatically. But we realized 10 years ago that that's not sustainable, and we have to depend on different resources. And during this period, since the discovery of oil, the majority of our population depended on the government for jobs, depended on the government to be employed, depended on big corporations that were national corporations to be the major employers, and that's definitely not sustainable. And we had to do something about that. So innovation were not part of our vocabulary. Our population were dependent on as I mentioned earlier, on the government for employment. And in order to do so, a couple of organizations and entities were created, such as mine. And Tamkeen, as one of those organizations, its main objective is to provide funding to upskill the talent of Bahrainis into the human capital aspect of things, as well as fund startups, entrepreneurs, scale-ups, and so on. So, as part of the ecosystem, funding is a major part. And throughout the years, we've noticed a shift in terms of the number of young Bahrainis who pursue their dreams into establishing businesses and making their ideas come true. And the numbers have been encouraging. From statistics from my organization, from our client base, about 37% of the 3,000 entities that we serve every year are young entrepreneurs who establish businesses. So these are encouraging numbers, and I believe that we are changing very fast. Our country is changing very fast, and our aim is to probably in the next 10 years as well, is to continue on that path, continue to support people with idea, whether they're Bahrainis or from anywhere in the region or international. We welcome everybody in Bahrain, and we work very hard to ensure that our economy is sustainable and not reliant on a single source such as oil. So we also work with other main players in the region, in the country, like the financial sector. We have programs that incentivize banks to spend and to invest in entrepreneurship and into startups specifically. During the past 10 years, banks have spent approximately $1 billion on startups, funding startups, and that's for a country with a GDP of 33 billion. That's I would say impressive. So we're a young player, but we believe in ourselves. We believe in our people, and hopefully, when you guys come to Bahrain next year, you'll see it firsthand. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Simon Galpin. I work for the Bahrain Economic Development Board, but I'm also a very proud member of the Startup Bahrain Initiative, which is a grouping of both the government organizations and the private sector organizations that really promote Bahrain's startup ecosystem in Bahrain and across the world. Now, as we've heard from many of the panelists here today, Bahrain is a small island economy. But sometimes small is beautiful because small means access. You don't have to just be a big multinational, whether you're a medium-sized business or even a startup. If you come to Bahrain, you have access to decision makers, access to investors, access to customers, and most importantly, access to the largest economy in our region, Saudi Arabia, as we're connected by a causeway to the eastern province. Now, to summarize, when we try to encourage companies to come to Bahrain, to set up in Bahrain, we talk about three main opportunities. The first opportunity is that we're investing very heavily in physical infrastructure. And Sheikh Khalid has touched on some of the major projects that we have in Bahrain. These add up to $32 billion worth of projects, which is the equivalent of our annual GDP. And these projects present tremendous opportunities for small, medium, large companies from around the world to come in as suppliers, subcontractors, and other service providers for these initiatives. The second big opportunity is in our soft infrastructure. And what we're doing is we're revising our laws, we're revising our regulations to ensure that almost every business activity is open to 100% foreign ownership. To ensure that there's no minimum capital if you want to start a business in Bahrain. To revise our insolvency and bankruptcy laws so that small companies, SMEs, if they do fail, can reinvent themselves and come back bigger and better and stronger than before. And then the third area of opportunity is in the whole digital startup space. Bahrain has only recently emerged as a leading hub for startups, and particularly for fintech startups, but we're really gaining momentum. It's a very user-friendly place, a very easy place to set up, and as we've heard, Bahrain is incredibly friendly. So I'd like to encourage you all to visit Bahrain, to contact our organizations, and come and participate in the event next year. And a very warm welcome to business-friendly Bahrain, a very warm welcome to entrepreneur-friendly Bahrain, a very warm welcome to startup-friendly Bahrain. Thank you.
Please go back to dark blue.
Giving us, thank you so much indeed for giving us such an excellent introduction to what we can expect from Bahrain and why Bahrain is going to be very much part of the promise of the future of the global ecosystem. So we very much look forward to that. Before we, and we want to remind you that we will be having 3 receptions before we go over to our dinner across the street. And one of them is, you know, a welcome to Bahrain, where you can go and you can get your ticket. And so I want to make sure that this will give you your ticket to Bahrain, inshallah. Okay, so I do want to do one more thing, which is not tradition, but they keep telling me I can't do it, but I'm just going to do it. But I think it's, for me, the most important thing is there is one thing that will be consistent between Turkey and Bahrain, and that is the most amazing, fantastic team that any person on the world could be surrounded by. And I'm so blessed with so much, but I'm especially blessed with my team. So I know I'm going to annoy you, but I'd like to ask you if you just come up here for 1 second and just take one recognition for the work you've done working together with the team in Turkey for your recognition. So Mark Marriage, Bouquet Kourdar, Christina Fernandez, William Charter. If the staff could all come up, please. Stand here. Stand here if you wouldn't mind. Can you stand in the light for a minute? And let's go there, Mark, for a minute. And to our distinguished guests from Bahrain, I hope you'll forgive me for this important task, but I have to tell you, I wanted you to see these are the people that from this point onwards will be working to ensure that the message you conveyed this afternoon, we're able to bring that into reality in Bahrain in a year's time. Their hearts and their souls are in this, but most importantly, I want to say thank you so much to all of them for what we've done in Turkey. So thank you so much. Come here. You have to understand that they're all working so hard. That's the first time I've been able to get them to be in one place at the time. And because we all live in different cities, it's a very special thing for me to be able to have that snapshot for my iPhone. So thank you so much indeed. But most importantly, we want to thank everyone that made this event possible, and thank you for your commitment to be part of GEN in the future. But to celebrate Bahrain as the next destination of the Global Entrepreneurship Congress, in order to call the Congress to an official close, I'd like to invite everybody from the Kingdom of Bahrain to come up here for a group photograph, and then I'd like to invite all of you on behalf of the Kingdom of Bahrain to join us for a reception outside the back of the room. So thank you very much. I hereby announce the Global Entrepreneurship Congress is adjourned.